Enjoy early access to ad-free episodes each week when you subscribe to Wedding Planning Podcast Premium in Apple Podcasts. Enjoy the show. Hey there. Thank you so much, as always, for joining me for a few minutes today to talk all about your wedding. I have a mailbox full of your questions that I'm very, very excited to share. There's some good stuff in here today, and we're going to open with a bang. This is such a great question, and I'm so glad that it came in because it's a great opportunity to explore all of the unexpected stress points that you can start preparing for. So the question, in a nutshell, I'm going to paraphrase a little bit. What's really bothering me lately is that I'm in a stress cycle over anticipating what might go wrong during our wedding weekend and wanting to proactively jump in and plan for those things. What are some unexpected stress points that we can be prepared for as much as possible? This question is rich, so get ready, sit back, take notes, and come back to this one as you continue to plan, because there's really a lot of good stuff in here. Now, I'm going to start with an odd sounding way to answer this question, but do yourselves a favor right now and just plan that something is going to go not according to your plan. Okay? At some point between today and the day you get married, something is going to happen that you're like, whoa, did not see that coming, have no plan for this. What the heck are we going to do? So expect to be caught off guard by something and mentally prepare to be able to brush it off in the moment so that you can be fully present and you can enjoy your wedding day. If you were to survey 100 couples in the week after their wedding, 97 of them are going to have multiple stories of things that just went completely off plan, off script. The magic, and what we're going to try to figure out today, is that the way you choose to react to that issue, that's going to make all the difference. And then, yes, of course, there are some very concrete strategic ways that we can be proactive and we can be prepared. So with that said, now let's move into the strategy side of my answer, because there are no doubt some very checklist, straightforward ways that you can prepare yourselves to bounce back from a setback here or there or something that didn't quite go as you thought it was supposed to. We touched on this first part a few times over the past couple of weeks, and it will come up over and over again. I think the best way to prepare for unexpected stress points or unexpected things that come up is to have a rock solid point person. This is your personal assistant, your right-hand man or woman throughout your wedding weekend. This can be a professional. It can be a paid wedding coordinator or wedding planner. It can be someone from your social circle who has no actual wedding experience per se, but someone who's dependable, trustworthy, organized, and importantly, someone who is 100% excited and willing to take on this responsibility for you. I know that not everyone has an extra $3,000 in their budget to hire a professional planner, and that's totally fine. I personally had the events and marketing manager from the high school that my husband teaches at. She was our coordinator, and she was so happy to do it, and we were so grateful to have her to do it. And she managed some really intense, really tricky situations for us throughout our whole wedding weekend, and she didn't even bat an eye. So whether it's a paid professional, someone in your satellite circle of friends or your social circle or someone you know through work, you have options. If you have more money than time, then hire a professional and call it a day. If you're in the opposite camp and you have more time than money, then sit down and think really carefully about some people in your circle who you could ask to take on that responsibility for you. And you can even pay them for their time or you could trade services depending on what your profession is or what your talents are. Get creative with this. To come full circle on this first point, and then we'll move on, but having a rock solid day of point person is really going to be your best defense against all this unexpected stuff that's going to come up. Ideally, this person is going to be out in front of anything that veers from the plan, and they will have it corrected before you even notice. That's the goal. I have a whole list here of unplanned issues that can come up. So we're going to go through them. The next one on my list is to proactively prepare to be comfortable. Please do not dismiss this one. It sounds very obvious. Whether it's a giant heavy wedding dress or hair in your face or your shoes that are killing you, your personal comfort during a potentially 16-hour-long wedding day is of the utmost importance. It is impossible. Seriously, it's impossible to enjoy the moment if your feet are bleeding. So take steps to ensure that you have backup shoes, a second dress to change into, make sure your hair is going to be out of your way. Go ahead. We've all heard of these wedding day emergency kits. Have one. Have Advil, a small sewing kit, a stain remover pen, electrolytes, tampons, antacid tablets, all that stuff. Just prepare for your comfort. Really prioritize your comfort. And I know when we think of like the most comfortable thing to hang out in, a 20-pound wedding dress probably doesn't come to mind. 20 pounds, that's a bit of an exaggeration. I'm not saying you're going to be as comfortable as when you're on the couch in your sweatpants, but you need to be able to physically stand being in that attire for a really long day and just take the steps to make sure that you have planned for all the ways that you can kind of maximize your personal comfort. All right, now let's move on to your photos and the importance of having a clear plan and a detailed shot list locked in with your photographer and your videographer if you have hired one. They are likely the most expensive vendors that you've invested in for all the reasons that we know. But if you don't actually capture all the important combinations of people, then it's a missed opportunity that you're going to feel for years to come. So please initiate a conversation with your photographer and your videographer about the important moments and combinations of people that you want captured. This is really high on the list of regrets and unexpected issues that newlywed couples share after the fact. Our next area for proactive management is all of your various vendors. If you've hired a professional coordinator, then congratulations, you have paid for the peace of mind that your vendors are going to be managed for you, in theory. But you should still have a detailed and ongoing conversation with your coordinator to understand if there are any areas here that you will need to pay special attention to or that you will need to put special plans in place for. Okay, that's kind of a side note. Back on track. If you're going the do-it-yourself route and you're leaning on friends and family for help with all the ongoing logistics and vendor management, then you will absolutely need to have a detailed, organized plan in place for regular touch points with all of your vendors in the months and the weeks leading up to your wedding day. And this is kind of scary to say, but that's actually the easy part. Where things get much more complex and higher stakes is when we get into the 1 to 2 day range before your wedding day, because that is when all those high stakes issues are going to come up. And it's also when you have the least bandwidth to be micromanaging people and putting out fires. So let's circle back to the importance of your wedding day point person. They are going to be your front line of defense in confirming, following up, and being on call for all these last minute issues and questions that will come up. And like I said at the beginning of today's show, there will be issues. Someone will be late, someone will get lost, someone will be locked out and unable to get onto the grounds to set up. So just do yourself a favor and mentally prepare yourself for those things to happen. The key here is that you have proactive plans in place to manage it when it does happen, so that hopefully you will not even know that any of this is going on in the background during your wedding day, because you've taken the time now to proactively plan for what's going to happen and what trigger points are going to unfold if something unexpected does come up. Another common and unexpected stress point is items that are forgotten, never set up, or left behind. So here are some quick examples off the top of my head. You bought $400 worth of champagne, but no one knows where the cases were put when you unloaded everything, so they never even get opened for the welcome toast. You have a very specific vision for how your table signs and your centerpieces should be set up, but no one has a diagram or a photo to follow, so it's all just haphazardly thrown on the tables by guesswork. Or maybe you ordered custom place cards and holders, but they got left behind in your storage area of your apartment because you completely forgot about them. I could go on and on. Do yourselves a favor, and here's a mini checklist for how to make sure that nothing is forgotten, not set up, or left behind. Number 1, take inventory of all your decoration items that you've purchased and make a detailed list. Number 2, make a diagram or a map of exactly where and how everything should be set up. And number 3, share your inventory list and those setup instructions with anyone who's going to be helping you transport, move in, and set up at the venue. This category is super easy to be prepared for, but the key, guys, is it doesn't just magically happen. If inventory and making diagrams is not your thing, I don't blame you. But delegate it to someone who's asking how they can help you and pass it off to them. Take an hour on a Saturday, take some time to get organized. I promise it will pay off. From your engagement ring to your wedding day itself, you can protect your most cherished memories with Bright Co. Bright Co. is an insurance provider you can trust with fast, easy, and affordable coverage for your jewelry and your wedding day. Bright Co. Liability Insurance has you covered for up to 5 days of wedding events, and it starts at just $102. Protect yourself further with cancellation coverage starting at just $80 to safeguard your financial investments in the case of postponement, vendor issues, worldwide pandemics, weather, and the like. I heard from a couple just last week who rented a really unique Airbnb property and designed their entire wedding weekend from the ground up, only to have the owner cancel on them 1 week prior for completely unknown reasons. That is heartbreaking and frustrating to no end, but this is a perfect example of where Bright Co.'s cancel for any reason coverage add-on can be a literal game changer. Visit bright.co/wedpod for a fast free quote today and unlock peace of mind knowing you're covered. That's brite.co/WEDPOD. Trust Bright Co. for your insurance needs. All right, I have just a couple more unexpected stress points and missed opportunities. Let's touch on speeches. There are infinite number of ways to structure speeches, including not doing any at all, which is totally fine. A popular deer in the headlights moment is a couple who hasn't even thought about giving a thank you speech. Sharing a heartfelt thank you with all of your guests at some point during your celebration is a really, really meaningful moment. It doesn't need to be long or overly rehearsed, but just being prepared to say a 1-minute thank you for coming, either at the rehearsal dinner, your reception, follow-up brunch, your choice. but it's a really touching and memorable gesture that's super easy to plan for, but that doesn't happen if you don't plan for it. And last, but certainly not least, preparing for weather. Good old Mother Nature. Whether it's hot or cold, snow, rain, sweat, whatever it is, this one is very dependent on your location and time of year, obviously. So wherever you are and whatever month it is, be really realistic about the weather constraints that you might have to deal with and make some proactive contingency plans. Your venue should be able to help you with this. A coordinator will definitely be able to help you with this. Don't push it aside. Don't minimize it. It's important to think about. I know it's not fun to think about, but it is important to think about what you will do if XYZ. Okay, that rounds out a pretty thorough list of unexpected issues that you can prepare for. Obviously, it's not all inclusive, but these are just some of the top unexpected things that couples wish they had planned for more carefully. We're going to shift now into some other listener questions that I've collected over the past few weeks. I love to incorporate your questions into that week's show, and I do a lot of that. These are just some, not leftovers, that's not the right word. These are some additional questions that I haven't had a good place to naturally work into the past few weeks' episodes, so I'm just going to share them here, Q&A style, and we're going to start with Esther.
I've done a lot of research and only found one photographer whose style I'm actually excited about and who fits my budget. I live in a small town, so the options are limited. This photographer's work really speaks to me, so I decided to reach out to her to ensure that I could work with her. She told me it's really great that I did because I want a fall wedding and she's already booked for this fall, and she's starting to get booked for the following year already. I would really like to put a deposit in with her, but here's the thing, I'm actually not engaged yet. My partner and I know we want to get married, we know we are each other's person, we're just waiting for a few things before getting engaged, probably in the fall. I am a hyper planner. I'm very passionate about having a backyard wedding, heavily DIY'd and under $10,000. My partner supports my vision and also enjoys planning with me, but he thinks it's not a good idea to book a date when we're not even engaged yet. Totally understandable. I told him I feel so strongly about this photographer that I would be willing to lose the deposit if things came to it. Should I bite the bullet and pay the deposit with the risk of losing my $275 deposit in the case that this date doesn't work for us, or should I just wait and risk losing the chance to work with my ideal photographer? What
a great question. Thank you so much for being in touch, and thank you for tuning in, even though you're not actually officially engaged yet. I'm actually surprised by how many listeners I hear from who are so proactive in their planning that they're not actually engaged yet, but they're still tuning in. I think that's great. And again, thanks for being in touch. From what you've explained, it sounds to me like this photographer is a can't miss for you. If the deposit is only $275, and you are willing to risk losing $275 over the gamble that you will have this amazing photographer locked in for your day, then I think it's a no-brainer to go ahead and put that deposit down and book her. In all candidness and all honesty, I think there is a possibility that things may change and you might not actually end up getting married on the day that you think you will right now, however many years in advance. But if you're okay with losing that deposit and you really want this photographer, then I would green light going ahead and putting that deposit down and knowing that you hopefully will get to work with this person. Next question is about a dress code, and this is like opposite day of what the question typically is. In this case, the couple has everyone asking them what they should wear, and the couple just really doesn't care what anyone wears. They don't have a wedding party. They don't have any preference in colors or styles or anything like that. They feel strongly that they're not going to tell anyone what they should wear, and they wonder what happens when there's no clear vision or no guidelines for what people will wear. You'll probably end up with a beautiful rainbow of colors and patterns and shapes and styles of clothing. And as long as you're okay with that, I don't see anything wrong with letting your guests wear whatever on earth they want. Next up, we have a mom who is very overeager to help. But that's translating into her becoming kind of frantic and flustered. And the bride-to-be feels that her mom is getting in the way of her organization by contacting vendors behind the back of the bride and groom and just overall kind of causing confusion because she is inserting herself where she's not needed. This is obviously a really delicate situation, and we love our moms, and we love that they are so excited. And I'm answering this question as a mom. My daughter is nowhere near old enough to be planning her wedding, thank God. I answer it as a mom and also having a mom. So I know both sides of being a mother and being a daughter, and it's challenging. And I think as long as you can have a candid conversation with her about how her actions are getting in the way of your progress and your mental space and your desire to keep things organized and streamlined, and you can let her know that you appreciate her help and her love so very much. But for example, I think it needs to be communicated that you can't reach out to our vendors without a conversation from me first. It's causing confusion. They may be charging you overtime for communicating with another party. And just as long as you can communicate some really clear guidelines, I think that's the best place to start. And we will hope for the best and hope that that is kind of all that's needed to remedy the situation. All right, and let's round out today's show with a honeymoon question. A couple is feeling really overwhelmed by the so far cost of their 50-person wedding, and they are second guessing their original intention to take a honeymoon to Hawaii. And she writes, I'm afraid if we don't just do it, we never will, but that additional $7,000 to $8,000 expense right now just isn't sitting well. Thoughts or alternatives that we're not thinking of? This is such a great question with so many different ways that we could explore it. As someone who loves to travel and loves to experience new places, I have a lot of thoughts on this. So here we go. For a little background on me, here's my travel style. I will spend pretty much whatever it costs to get somewhere. And then, if necessary, I am 100% fine with keeping the rest of the trip as cheap as possible. This means budget hotels, keeping food really simple and affordable, so eating street food, picnic stuff from the grocery store, etc. My husband and I have been to Europe many times, including with our kids. We've traveled extensively in Canada, Mexico, all over the US, and I can assure you that we would never be able to do all of those trips without some pretty major budgetary guidelines. For example, last summer we spent 2 weeks in London and Paris with our kids, and that was a $6,000 trip. There were 4 of us. That was a $6,000 trip that easily could have been $20,000. But we kept it simple. We stayed in a hostel in Paris for about $100 a night. We ate picnics on the River Seine. We ate really casual meals the rest of the time. And we just didn't do any luxury stuff. We went everywhere. We saw everything. It was amazing. I wouldn't trade that experience for anything. I personally would rather take the trip and have the experience within a really tight budget than not have the experience at all. So that's where I'm coming from. With that said, for 2 people to go to Hawaii, I don't think that trip has to cost anywhere near $8,000. If you want to do luxury White Lotus on Maui, then yes, that will probably cost double that. But to get to Hawaii, to stay in a beautiful place, experience beautiful beaches and beautiful weather, I don't think you need to spend $8,000. So my advice would be to price out flights, price out an Airbnb and a rental car. You can hit the grocery store and cook 2 meals a day at your Airbnb. You can eat casual for 1 meal a day. And I think that $8,000 price tag can probably be cut in half. If you're no matter what about wanting to stay at a resort, eat 3 meals out a day, do spa treatments, swim with turtles and dolphins, and take sunset boat rides, then maybe that trip just needs to wait. If you're already feeling stretched by the wedding itself, then I don't personally think that tacking on another $8,000 right now is the right move. That's just my humble opinion. Do with it what you will. And final thought here, Hawaii is amazing. Agree 100%. But there's also an entire beautiful country full of special places that you could visit and explore as a version of a honeymoon. I am really outdoorsy, and I've been making a special effort to explore national parks that we have never been to. And that's been a really, really fun travel project. I'm not sure where you're located or what your level of interest is in hiking and camping and Mother Nature, but national parks is always an affordable and an unforgettable experience. I have never been disappointed by spending a long weekend at a national park ever. You don't have to camp. You can always book a hotel near the entrance and just unplug, enjoy a few days together, explore a new place. I think that sounds like an amazing honeymoon. So those are just a couple of my ideas. I hope this is helpful, and I really hope that anyone listening will always feel free to reach out with your wedding questions, your thoughts, your stories, any requests you have for upcoming episodes. I have an open door. I would love to hear from you. And you can find me at weddingplanningpodcast.co/contact. Thank you so much for being here with me today. I hope you have a great rest of your week, and we'll meet again next week, same time, same place.